on YouTube. And then I'm sharing my screen with everybody. So that we'll be good to go.
Go click on Zoom.
Almost there.
Just go back there.
One more setting to adjust and we should be good. All right. I'm going to mute everybody now. I hope, though, that everyone sings along. I will miss hearing voices other than my own for this evening.
Me too.
All right. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to help work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We'll join together in singing Hine Matov, how good it is to be together. Hine Matov u'manayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim. Oy 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 sheverachim sheverachim gam yachad. Sheverachim oy achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim. Oy 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 sheverachim sheverachim gam yachad. Sheverachim oy achim gam yachad. And we'll continue singing together, Lechu Niranana, giving thanks to God for the gifts of all of creation. Lechu Niranana, Yai Lai 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 Lai, Ladonai, Yai Lai 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 Lai, Naria, Yai Lai 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 Lai. And we'll continue singing together, welcoming the Sabbath bride as we join together with the Chad Odi. I'm going to turn my email off so it doesn't make that noise again. There we go. Back to Zoom. All right. Ya la 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 Chad Odi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Jamor v'zachor v'diborecha. We're going to continue welcoming the Sabbath angels, singing together Shalom Alechem, the angels of peace. May they bring us peace and rest, and us, especially after the Shabbat, after the high holidays. I know I have a wedding that I'm doing tomorrow evening, but after that I'm going to take a really good Shabbat nap. All right. Shalom Alechem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Alechem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll continue lighting our Shabbat candles. If you have candles at home and you want to light them also, please, now is the time. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon Uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala uvizman kariv V'imeru amen Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach Le'alam ulam me'almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekedusha brichu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma, v'imeru, amen. We'll continue with our call to prayer. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, 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 yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai. Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. V'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'aderech u'shochbecha u'vkumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beineinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporeh sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. And we'll join together in singing Hashkivenu, that God's sheltering presence will be upon us this evening and every evening. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Hamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidei continue with our tefillah. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol atah Rav Lehoshia, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Ve'rofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha Ulecha Na'el Lehodot. Continue with our prayer for peace, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lecho hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. B'tov be'enei לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. We'll continue with our moment for our own quiet thoughts and prayers. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי We devote the next few moments of our service holding our loved ones, our congregational family members, and our friends who are in need of a prayer of healing in our prayers. If you have someone who you are thinking of and you'd like to share their name in the chat, I'll read them in a moment as we prepare for saying Misha Berach. Ursula Hartunian, Esther Greenwald, Lauren Trichik, Ernie Sexton, Danielle Semprola and Peter Baum, Ward Becker, Charlie Guberman, Anita Freilich. And for all of our loved ones who are in need of a prayer of healing, we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed is God who brings healing to those who are in need of healing. We'll join together in singing Misha Berach. It's not right. Mi sheberach Avoteinu Mekor habracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach Imotenu Mekor habracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I told myself a few years ago that if Yom Kippur, the Shabbat after Yom Kippur was only one day after Yom Kippur, that I was not going to write a new sermon for the Shabbat after Yom Kippur. However, in rabbinical school, there was a homiletics professor, a sermon writing professor who, I should say there was a legend about a particular homiletics professor who, during his reign as the homiletics professor at HUC in Cincinnati, he would send every second-year student to their student pulpit with the same sermon every year that he had written. And eventually, after about 4 or 5 years, the congregations of these student pulpits kind of figured out what was happening, and they wrote a note or called or whatever to this professor and said, we would appreciate having a new message when the students come. And the professor's answer was, it was a good sermon when I wrote it, it's a good sermon now, and and so I think this is one of my favorite sermons, even if it's not like super good. So I'm sharing it again with you. I don't think I've shared it in a few years, so you might not remember. Anyway, it's always seemed interesting to me that the first 2 Torah portions that we read after Rosh Hashanah, the one that we read during Shabbat Shuvah and the one that comes now, the Shabbat after Yom Kippur, but before Simchat Torah, that these 2 Torah portions are actually the conclusion of the Torah rather than starting the Torah anew at the new year. For 10 days, we talk about the new year, about starting over, about how our souls are freshly purified, and then we get to the next Shabbat, and we read about the death of Moses. It's almost like this Shabbat is an epilogue to the year, that for some reason we can't fully move on straight away from the high holidays. 2 of my favorite sages, that is Calvin and Hobbes, have a little something to say about this phenomenon. Just to make sure, for those who are not familiar with the comic strip, Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin is a pretentious, mischievous, and adventurous 6-year-old boy who has a stuffed tiger named Hobbes. And to Calvin, Hobbes is a live anthropomorphized tiger who is more practical, skeptical of Calvin's antics, and to an extent acts as Calvin's moral compass. In the first scene of this particular comic, we find Calvin and Hobbes pushing their little red wagon up a hill. When they get to the top, Hobbes, the stuffed tiger, exclaims, "Phew, this must be the tallest hill in the state." Calvin, with a look of longing on his face, says, "Kind of frustrating, isn't it? I wish Dad could would transfer us to the Andes Mountains. Calvin then turns to Hobbes excitedly and says, "Let's go down the hill and see if we can travel into the future." "It's easy," Calvin says. "All we have to do is get going really fast and we'll time warp." Hobbes says skeptically, "Into the future?" As they are racing down the hill, Hobbes asks, "Gosh, what do you suppose the future will be like?" And Calvin answers excitedly, "Who knows? Flying cars and cities built on clouds? Just think of all the weird things we can tell people we saw. Oh boy." As the wagon comes to a stop at the bottom of the hill, Calvin asks, "Hey, we're at the bottom of the hill. I didn't feel any time warp, did you?" Hobbes, scratching his head, answers, "Nope." Calvin regains a sense of excitement when he looks down at his watch and says, "But look, it's 2 minutes later than when we started. We're in the future." Hobbes, with his hand on his hips, simply answers, "Things haven't improved. I'm disappointed." I feel like this gem of a comic is great for this time of year. We've celebrated Yom Kippur only yesterday. It was hectic and stressful, but also a beautiful culmination of a lot of hard work, of so many people working together to make everything happen. It was great seeing so many people, both in person and on Zoom, but it kind of felt like, excuse the pun, zooming down a hill in a little red wagon. I don't know if it will ever feel like the day doesn't move along so quickly. And I realize that for some people it's exactly the opposite, but for me it just goes by very fast. This comic is always great for this time of year because I think it helps to bring to light a verse from this week's Torah portion, which is the last Torah portion that we read as a part of the cycle of the year, Ha'azinu. In chapter 32 of this week's Torah portion, in the book of Deuteronomy, is an elaborate and somewhat ominous song that Moses sings to people. You might expect at the end of the Torah something triumphant. The people, after all, are about to enter the land of Israel after 40 years of wandering. Instead, Moses warns them of all of the possible ways that they might go wrong and stumble after he is gone. And then, after Moses concludes this song, the Torah says, and the Hebrew is, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe be'etzem hayom hazeh. God spoke to Moses on that self-same day, saying, "Ascend the heights of Aviram to Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, facing Jericho, and view the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites as their holding. You shall die on that mountain that you are about to ascend, and shall be gathered to your kin, as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor and was gathered to his kin." There are lots of weird things about this short conclusion to the chapter. First, this is the second time we've been introduced to the idea of Moses' impending death in the last couple of chapters. But what makes this particularly weird is the use of this Hebrew phrase, be'etzem hayom hazeh, which means on that self-same day. It's a weird phrase in Hebrew, and the English translation doesn't really do it justice. But despite its irregularity, this is not the only time that it's used in the Torah. The first mention of this strange phrase takes us back to the story of Noah and its terrible climax. The flood is on its way, and Noah had ushered his family and the animals onto the ark. Noah, his sons, his wife, and the wives of all of his sons had gone into the ark. And then we hear about all the animals who went with him, how for 7 days the water of the flood were on the land, that the foundations of the deep erupted, and how the windows of the heavens were opened, and the water rained for 40 days and 40 nights. And then it says, Be'etzem hayom hazeh. On that self-same day, Noah, his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives, they got on the ark. That doesn't really make any sense. The Torah tells us that they got on the ark after the 40 days had already happened. So now this phrase is really confusing. What does on the self-same day mean? What day are they talking about? Is it the day after the rain, or is this somehow a misplaced sentence and we're supposed to see it as the day that the rain begins? The second time that the Torah uses this phrase happens a few chapters later in the story of Abraham, right after God had commanded Abraham to perform the circumcision on himself. After God had sealed a covenant, Abraham does what God had commanded, and it says, Be'etzem hayom hazeh. On that self-same day, Abraham was circumcised. This one makes a little more sense. Circumcision for Abraham was a symbol of the covenant, and so Abraham did it on the self-same day that he made the deal. The third mention comes from the story of Exodus, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, where the Torah says that on that self-same day, all of the hosts of God went out from the land of Egypt. And then, of course, we have the phrase uttered on the day that Moses is about to die. The question is, what beyond this phrase links these stories together? It appears that each of these stories recalls a significant, pivotal moment in the overarching narrative of the Torah. The flood marked the moment where God hit the reset button for all of humanity and the world, and the story of Abraham's circumcision marks the official beginning of the Jewish people. The moment that the people leave Egypt is the first moment in history where all of the children of Jacob become one nation, and Moses' death at the end of the Torah is also marking a significant moment, and the use of this phrase in this context adds some complexity to our understanding of what the phrase overall means. Why was Moses' death so pivotal? The sages in the Talmud, in the Tractate of Terumah, seem to suggest an answer when they relate a story that illustrates just how profound Moses' death was for the people. The text tells us that when Moses died, the people mourned him for 30 days, but during those 30 days, 3,000 laws were forgotten by the people, which if you're keeping track or keeping score of the number of commandments, we are told that there's only 613 commandments, so that the people lost 3,000 after Moses died. They're in either in a deficit or they're just saying that this is really significant. So the Israelites panicked, and they turned to Joshua and pleaded with him, and they asked, go get these laws back, they said. Go ask God. You have to go talk to God. God can tell us. And Joshua simply answers with a phrase that we've all heard before. He says, Lo bashamayim hi. I can't do that. Lo bashamayim hi means it's not in heaven. It comes from the Torah portion that we read also yesterday on Yom Kippur, that the Torah is not in heaven, so I can't go ask God to give it to me again. The people of Israel were so discouraged that they were prepared to kill Joshua in this story over this loss. But finally, Othniel, the son of Kenaz, was able to rediscover these forgotten laws through human logic and analysis. So again, this is the ancient rabbinic attempt to say that we should all be rational people in our following of the rules. But anyway, as far as I can tell, the point of this story is to say, Be'etzem hayom hazeh, there will always be moments in our lives that feel significant, that stand out, like Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year, and we shouldn't belittle its potential effect on who we are and in the role that it plays on who we'll be in the future year, where we feel inspired, we feel uplifted, or perhaps Be'etzem hayom hazeh, like in the case of the flood, refers to a terrible event where we might feel utterly downtrodden. The message of Be'etzem hayom hazeh is just that these are only moments. These days, no matter how significant they are only a day, are only a moment. All of the moments in between, our tradition teach, the choices that we make in between these significant moments are what ultimately determines what we make of our lives. I hope that the high holidays were a meaningful experience for everyone, but I also hope that the spirit we brought to these days of awe carry forth with us through the rest of the year, and we're able to see the fruition of our work, that the self-reflection and teshuvah that we performed in the last week and a half allow us to reach our full potential, or as close to our full potential as we can make, and may that be so for all of us. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to continue with Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vigoraleinu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, ushemo echad. We take the next few moments of our service to honor the memories of those who have come before us, those for whom this Shabbat and the previous week were a yahrzeit or an anniversary of their death. Molly K. Dreskin, Eva Van Dyke, Jack Markowitz, Ida Abrams Miller, Hinda B. Shapiro, Rose Broder, John Ben Diamondstein, Florence Eisenberg, Esther Hoffman, Julius Cohen, William Rosenfeld, Evelyn Woolman, Ike Jacoby, Stephen Lawrence, and Mildred Lewis. And if there are if there are loved ones who you are thinking of now that you'd like to include as we are about to say Kaddish, please type their name in the chat and I will read them in a moment. We say, Zichronam livracha, may the memories of all of our loved ones who've come before us be for a blessing. We'll continue with Mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam U'olmei Almaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitale V'yithalal Shemei D'Kedusha B'richu, Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Da'amiran Be'alma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace in the heavens on high bring peace to us, to all Israel and all people of the world, and send comfort to all those who are mourning. Together we say, Amen. A couple of announcements. The ancient rabbis, when they whoever put the Torah together, decided that they were not going to give rabbis a break this time of year. So we moved from the high holidays straight into Sukkot and Simchat Torah. And we are going to celebrate Sukkot on the first evening of Sukkot. together as a community in the temple's front yard area, which is Monday, September 20th. I know there was an announcement in the bulletin, or excuse me, in the e-news that said October 20th. That's a month too late. Don't bring your picnic then. You should bring it on September 20th, which is this coming Monday. We're going to start at 6:30. There's going to be crafts for kids, and we're going to decorate the sukkah a little bit. And then we're going to do a fairly short Sukkot service. So please, again, bring your own picnic if you have a blanket, or if you want to bring a little table or lawn chairs. Come and we'll celebrate outside, weather permitting. If it's raining, I think what we'll do is move into the gym. But in any case, I hope to see as many people there as we can get. So, and it should be fun. And then on September 24th at noon, the sisterhood is inviting anyone to participate in the Women of Reform Judaism's Zoom program for Sukkot. Let's celebrate Sukkot as the WRJ community. Join us for a virtual lunch in the sukkah, where we'll talk about our favorite Sukkot traditions and have the opportunity to show off your sukkah. It should be good, but you need to register, I believe, so you can find the information for registering in the e-news. And that is all I have right now. So we are going to say Kiddush and Motzi and the blessing for our children, and then conclude our service. So if you have something to say Kiddush over, we'll join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. And for our children, whether you're sitting next to your children or you can see them on the screen, or if you're holding them in your heart, we say these words of blessing for all of our kids. Yesimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Menashe. May God bless you like the sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Menashe. Yesimecha Elohim ke'Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May God bless you like the mothers of our people, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. We bless all of our children that they may be proud of who they are, and that they will always strive to be the best version of themselves. As we say these words of blessing from the Torah, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence always feel close to you, and may you always be blessed with the most important gifts of wholeness and peace. Amen. And have a very nice challah, one of our round challahs. See? Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. And we'll sing together Osei Shalom, prayer for peace to conclude our service, and then I will unmute everybody.
Osei Shalom Bimroma Hu Ya'aseh
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.